Welcome to the House Hacker Mafia Real Estate Meetup. My name is Ryan Thompson. This is Tanner Pyle. We co-host this together. The whole point of this is to bring people together that are passionate about real estate and what it can do for our lives and our financial freedom. Learn from each other, grow with each other. That's the whole purpose here. So make sure you spend some time at the end networking. We had a last-minute change in speakers. Sam had something come up, and we needed to reschedule. So Tanner's going to talk tonight. I'll introduce him in a minute. Tanner and I are both real estate agents. We're both investors. We're super passionate about real estate. If you've got questions, you need help, we would be happy to do that. Right now, I'm really focusing on assumable mortgages where you can try and get interest rate in like the 2s or 3s. Put way less down than 20% and get a sweet property. Tanner's an awesome house hacker, rent by the room, seller finance. I mean, he does a lot of things as well and is super experienced. But tonight, Tanner's going to talk about tariffs and about how some of the new policies on that and immigration might impact the housing market. So give it up for Tanner.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We had a last switch up of topics, so I scrambled and used ChatGPT to kind of create something that hopefully you like in the last 2 hours of my day. So, yeah, me and Ryan, real estate agents, investors. I've been in real estate for 4 years now. I have 3 properties that I've house hacked and done short-term rentals on. Have done some co-living on them too. And I think house hacking is one of the best ways to get started in real estate when you're a beginner and you don't have the funds to really make those large down payments or get into the commercial space. Starting with residential is just fine. And so with real estate in the current day, we have a lot of changes that just occurred with the new administration that's come into play. And they've made some switches to how potential policies are going to be affected in the real estate world. Does anyone know what any of those are? Quick shout out. You all don't watch the news at all? No? Okay.
Question again, I'm sorry.
New real estate policies that have come out. You know when? No? Okay. Well, before we get started, we have 2 sponsors. One of them is Ashburton right there. Good round of applause. Yeah. He is an insurance broker, so if you have any insurance questions, please go over and talk to him. He can shop around and make sure you get the best rate. And then our other sponsor is our speaker that was going to be for tonight, Sam Bromley. He does mortgage lending here in town. And so if you have any questions, go and check him out. It can help you out with anything real estate related.
In real estate, first impressions can make or break a deal. Whether you're listing a home for sale or marketing an investment property, having high quality photos are key at grabbing attention. If you want to stand out in the competitive Colorado Springs market, having high quality photos is essential. And Wayne over at Homadi excels at getting the best possible photos for your property. He is based right here in Colorado Springs and specializes in capturing properties in the best light. If you're ready to take your property photos to the next level, make sure to contact Wayne over at Homadi and mention you heard about him from Tanner at Red and Joy Real Estate to get 20% off your next shoot. Remember, great photos can make the difference between a quick sale and a stale listing. So make sure to contact Wayne over at Homadi today.
So now, the key policy changes that have been made are tariffs that were put on Canada and Mexico for any goods that are transferring across the border, as well as mass deportation for the whole U.S. as a whole. The 25% is pretty hefty. Now, this doesn't go into effect, I believe, for a couple more weeks. Right now, it's kind of like a threat that has been made against Canada and Mexico to kind of get their act together, we'll say. We're not going to go into too much detail around pros and cons with all these policies because I don't know everything about that. We're going to stick to how it's going to affect real estate as a whole. So what is a tariff? And a tariff is not going to be any type of a tax that's going to the Canadian government or the Mexican government. It's going to be the businesses that are going to be bringing those products across the border that are going to have to pay that tax, which will often be transferred down to the consumers. That's how that's going to be working. So for Mexico and Canada, in the housing world, they provide a lot of steel, lumber, and gypsum. Who knows what gypsum is? There we go. It's drywall, sheetrock, what you put up around your homes before you plaster it all up and make it look pretty. So 70% of that comes from Mexico and Canada, which means that a lot of housing prices for rehabs and new construction is going to be increasing a lot if these do go into place, which could cause a lot of slowdown for new construction because materials are going to be increasing and they're trying to figure out, okay, are we going to put all this money into this? It's going to delay how much we have in order to get these up on the market. And same with remodeling projects too. If a current investor is in the middle of a fix and flip and they need to get more money now because they have higher costs for the materials they may not have budgeted for, it could cause some of those slowdowns for getting new inventory on market. Next up is a short of housing supply. So I found this little article saying that there was about 4.5 million homes in a short of here in the US. That increased about 0.2 million, which is 200,000, I guess you could say, from 2021 to 2022. And if we have an even more slowdown of new construction that's happening, there's not new products that's coming online, this could cause even more of a housing shortage. And what happens when we have a lack of supply? Prices tend to increase generally, is how it's looked at. So now into the mass deportation phase of how this is going to work. Roughly 30% of the construction workforce is immigrants. So if we have a bunch of immigrants that are leaving our country, that's going to cause an even major slowdown of how rehab projects are going on, how new construction builds are going on. We're just slowing down the amount of supply that's coming onto the market, causing a lack of supply in housing overall. And when we have a lack of supply, prices tend to increase. So we have less labor, less supply of labor. So you have less good quality workers to pay. So you're trying to pay your good ones more to get in. There's higher costs, which means higher prices from remodeling and new construction, which then gets passed down to the consumer, which is our home buyers. They're having to pay more for a home at the end of the day.
If you're planning to get photos done on your next listing or rental property, don't forget to reach out to Wayne with Homani to get 20% off your next shoot.
The supply chains. So one way to look at this is that someone is going from Mexico to Canada with their business and they're trying to figure out, okay, we have this 25%. Am I going to push all of it on and across over to my consumers of my product, or am I going to take a hit of some of that? And maybe I should take only this much, see how much the current inventory I have is going to be selling. And so all those concerns are going to be through the supply chains, which could cause even more delays for getting materials. Plus, when you add in getting workers, more delays for getting new supply online, which, if this does actually go through, could take 6 months and we could get it sorted out, but likely it could take several years, and then we have an even longer housing crisis with a shortage in supply, causing home prices to increase. Inflation trends. Does anyone know what inflation was this month?
3%.
3%, right there. Well done, Eddie. Well done. It did come in at 3%. And what does the Fed want it to be?
2%.
2%. There we go. Which means when inflation increases, a lot of times the Fed will tend to increase interest rates because they want to get it lower and stop buying and stop consumer goods to delay what inflation is going to be running at. So if this were the case and inflation keeps increasing, we're going to have the Fed consider increasing interest rates, and we're already at 6.5%. I had a buyer at 7% the other day for buying a conventional mortgage. So if we go even higher than that, it's going to cause a lot of buyers to just be like, you know what, I want to wait. Which, when you add that into the lack of supply, could get interesting. Don't quite know how that will go into play. But if we look back at what happened previously, this past couple of years, when rates did increase from 3-4% up to 6%, buyers stopped. They're like, you know what, it's way too much. They're going to come back down, right? It's going to come back down. But it never did. And now everyone's just getting back into the housing market, which is likely what could happen in the future. Impact on housing demand. So if we do have a lot of deportation coming on, one thing that I saw when I was doing some research is that a lot of people could be relocating. whether it's getting away from the border, which who knows what that all entails. If they're either afraid of getting deported, they're going to go to areas that could be a lot more safer away from the border. Maybe that's Colorado, who knows? But most likely it's going to be people looking to rent, which could cause an increase of rent going to certain areas, but a huge decrease in rent coming to other areas around the US. So what does this all mean? We covered the lack of homes and how that's going to have a housing shortage. Remember that 4.5 million that we talked about, which could increase. And then even higher rates will have buyers not interested in purchasing in the short term, but in the long term, people are going to have life situations that happen. You're going to have to sell your home. You're going to want to move to a different area, which will cause people to get over the high rates and eventually get back into the housing market, like we saw over this past year when it took a pause and prices kind of settled. No one was buying because of that fear, and it slowly kind of got back over that and got into the housing market. So what I could see happening in the future, if these tariffs do go into place, is prices may increase really quickly right off the bat, but then the Fed's going to have to do something to kind of help that out. Whether it's increasing rates, whether it's decreasing rates, that's the unknown factor in real estate right now. And these next couple months will definitely tell us how to proceed in the future with making real estate investments, what strategy is going to work best for you. So definitely look into these things when you are looking to invest in real estate and what market that you're going into. All right, we have a winner for tonight. I hope this works, fingers crossed. But does anyone have any questions first about any of that? Yes, Miller.
Who did you vote for?
Who did I vote for? We're not answering that. Yeah.
Okay, so you talked a lot about how this will make home prices increase. Like that's one of the outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of investors benefit from that? Which strategies, I guess? Which strategies benefit?
Yeah. So I would say the ones that do not benefit are the ones that involve a lot of remodel. So your fix and flippers, your new construction, those ones would benefit the least because of the higher materials costs. If you are doing a buy and hold, that would benefit very well because you will be holding on to real estate and you'll get that inflation. And when inflation increases, this causes appreciation in your home values to go up over time. So short-term investing, probably not so good. Long-term investing would probably be on the better side of the real estate strategies for what's coming in the future. I think that's all up to every person's individual decision on what they think is high. Because when I got into real estate, it was at 3%. So I think that's high. But you've been in real estate for a while, so 7% may not be as high. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you're like 7% is perfectly fine for me. Yeah, I think it's a valid point. What's going to happen with rates to equalize that, or what's going to happen to housing prices to equalize that?
What's happening? Housing prices.
Happening, yeah, you could argue that. I will say that in Colorado Springs, the median home price this last month was $470, and last year at the same month was at $440. So we did have an increase in median home price over time. But on certain properties, I can see how it has decreased in home value.